Well, tonight we have Jeff back with us, and so welcome to, Jeff is going to be running, this is the second of 3 sessions, actually the third or fourth session.
However long
Right.
you yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give it just another minute, but I'll introduce myself in the meantime. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Jeff BOHR, and I own a company in town called NAPLES Help, where I make house calls and provide people with support for their Apple products. Anything Apple. I don't really do PCs. I've never owned a PC, but I know how to connect it to a printer anyway. And I'm an Apple certified support professional, which means that I have the same training as the guys at the Apple store at the Genius Bar, but they can't leave the store, and I make house calls. So that's my business. And I do have cards up here, so if you need any help, feel free to call me or email me. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to cover some iOS tips and tricks for iOS 6, which is the most recent operating system that's been released for the iPad and portable devices, the iPod and the iPhone. So most of these, if not all, will apply to all the devices. I will let you know if something's iPad only, which I'll be concentrating on this evening. And then I've also sent the notes so that the notes, everything that I'll cover, if you don't want to take notes or if it goes a little fast and you can't keep up, there will be a PDF of this available to the group via the newsletter or on the website as a download. So that's in the works. So that'll be there as soon as George or Jerry's able to get it up. So one of the first things I want to cover is if you have your iPad on and you're connected, you can follow along with these. One of the things that I find that is kind of almost a common sense thing, but a lot of people don't know about it that I'll cover is if you're typing an email and you're in the message body, so let's go to watch out, but if I'm typing, you know how it will automatically, at the bottom left there, you'll see the caps mark is up, so it'll always capitalize the first letter of the sentence. Let's see if we have a connection here.
Yeah.
So it was turned to autocorrect. A little delay,
It
but
doesn't accept hellhole.
right, yeah. Let's see. Now the delete button is still depressed, so it's trying to sync. There we are. So now, if you notice the caps lock button, if I press it once, it will turn blue, kind of around the edges. Let's see. It's thinking, so let's see if it'll pick up the pace here. Well, it's not demonstrating, but typically if you press the caps lock or the caps button twice, it will go into a caps lock mode, so you can type all caps if you want to shout at someone. So this works on the iPhone as well. And then the outside of the shift button, which is the arrow on each side of the keyboard, will be a darker blue, rather than just the arrow simply itself being a lighter blue. So I'll see if we can get that to work. Let's see, it's on the right Wi-Fi. Let's make sure.
Is that the one you should be on, Jerry?
Yes,
Yeah, and we tested this a few seconds ago, so it looks like
but is the mirroring working?
the mirroring's working. It's like a little delay, but there we are. So let's try that again. There you see
okay.
the blue. So that means caps lock is on. So then if you want to type, yeah, there's some kind of syncing issues, you know.
How'd you get it on?
There was a connection issue.
Somebody said, how'd you get it on?
How did I get what on? The
dark blue.
oh, tap the shift key
Yeah,
twice,
Yeah.
and then it will turn blue.
Thank you.
And that's caps lock.
Gotcha.
So, you know, if you want to say, hello, you owe me money to someone and give it a little more emphasis, that's when you might want to use the caps lock.
You take questions as we go?
Absolutely.
My keypad doesn't look like this.
Do you have, what, iOS 6 installed, you know? What's
The
different?
the lower line, I don't have the globe.
Oh, the globe is a setting, that's your international keyboard settings, or in this case,
Oh, I see,
emoji.
okay.
So I'll show you how to turn that on. So if you don't see a globe here, what the globe does is brings up the emoji keyboards. So if you wanted to put little smiley faces and such in your text messages that will read on other iOS devices, they usually don't show up. If you send someone these emoji, which they're called, the Japanese term for these little characters, they typically, if I sent this to another iPad or an iPhone and the person picked it up on an iOS device, you'd see these little pictures pretty much the way they look here. If you, however, read this email on a computer, even a Mac, they show up as little boxes because the Mac typically doesn't have this keyboard installed, whereas the iOS devices do. So if you want to make sure, if you want to get to this screen where you can actually put these little emoji keyboards on, we'll do that. We'll go to Settings on the iPad, and if you go to General, and you scroll down to the bottom third of the screen, you'll see a keyboard menu. When you go to the keyboard menu, about halfway down the screen, you'll see a keyboards option. You might only see a 1 to the right of that, but if you tap on that keyboards option, you can then click Add New Keyboard, and in the list that shows up, you can add any languages that you might like to use on your iPad, or emoji, E-M-O-J-I, will be down on the list in alphabetical order.
It's up near the top.
Yeah, once I've installed it, it doesn't, I don't know, yeah, if it's near the top,
I'm not seeing it. Oh, I see it.
it may be at the top,
I see.
or it might be in alphabetical order, but once you install it, then on the previous screen, you'll see English and emoji, and then when you go back to anything where you would enter text, such as email or a note, you will then have that option to toggle that emoji keyboard on.
Did everybody get there?
Does everyone have that on now? So it's kind of fun. The emoji keyboard you can also use then in any apps that are on your phone, such as notes. Text messages is sometimes fun to put a little smiley face in there or something. So once you enable that emoji keyboard, that globe is the way that you'll be able to access that from any app where you see the keyboard.
Any way I can turn off my sister-in-law so she puts tons of them on.
Unfortunately, no. And people that send you those on there's a certain app available called Incredimail or something where you might see these type of things at the bottom of emails. And that's because the sender is subscribed to this service that lets them put little cartoons at the bottom of your email. Those sometimes, depending on if they're a GIF image or not, a GIF image, they may or may not show up on the iPad the same way they do on the computer. But that's another way people will be able to send little funny things in pictures. Now, another neat feature of iOS 6 is that prior to iOS 6, if you were in your photo app and you were looking at your pictures, say you went to Cancun and you had pictures of the cruise ship or something, you can click the little share button and then choose to email that photo and it will open an email. However, in iOS 6, if you go into the email app like we are here, I'm in the message body. If I press my finger and hold it for a second to get the menu up, you'll see a new menu there that says Insert Photo or Video. So if you tap that, it will then take you to your photo library, and you can pick a picture or a video, and click the Use button, and then it will insert that video or image that is on your camera roll, or even on your photo stream, into the email, directly starting in the email, rather than having to go to your photo roll and find the picture and locate it there. So that's a new feature. And then that video is now attached in the email. So the way to get that again is press and hold for a few seconds until you see the little magnifying glass show up. That will give you the formatting menu, of which one of the choices is now Insert Photo or Video. So that's a new option that makes it a lot quicker to insert those directly from a mail message rather than starting in the Photos app.
Can you create multiple pictures or just one?
Let's see, I think you can only do one at a time. Yeah, it only lets you do one at a time, but you can do it multiple times. So if you want to add 3 pictures, repeat.
I got 2.
For each, you did?
Yeah.
How'd you get it?
How'd you do that?
I got the little magnifying glass, the thing popped up, get a picture, and it's, I got 2 pictures of my kitty cats.
2 separate pictures?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it happen. See? Because each time I press on one, it only, if I hit use, it automatically inserts that photo, and then I have to repeat it, so I don't
You know how you did it?
sell that. Yeah, can you do it again?
Wait a minute, let me see.
I did it.
I don't think it's gonna let me do 3.
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
able to
but how
do
did
that.
you get to 2?
Because when I pull up 2, it only lets me select one.
Wait a minute. I've got 3.
Well, tell us how you did
How
it.
did you do that?
She is doing it in steps. In steps.
I'm doing it in steps. I keep getting a magnifier, and then it prompts me with the...
Oh, so you're repeating.
So I repeat
Oh,
it.
yeah, you can repeat the process
I just want to
for,
know if you can put it in the
you
same...
can't do multiples at the same time.
No.
But you can repeat the process for as many messages or as many photos as your email provider will let you carry, which is usually a certain amount of megabytes or gigabytes. Now, another thing, if we go to the bottom of a new message, if you start a new message on your iPad, you'll see a signature, which is probably something like this. It says, sent from my new Apple iPad, a Wi-Fi-enabled tablet featuring the stunning Retina display now with iOS 6.1 and Siri, although now it's 6.3 or 6.1.3. But that is what's called the mail signature. So if you just have something that says sent from my iPad there, you can change that to, sent from my personal helicopter or sent from my boat 30 miles off the shore of the Mediterranean or something. So if you want to change the signature that appears at the bottom of your mail messages by default, you'll go into settings on your iPad again. You'll scroll down in the left column to mail, contacts, and calendars. And in the mail section, about halfway down after the first mail section, you'll see an item that says signature. And if you tap on that, that will show you the signature, the default signature. So if you want to change sent from my iPad to something else, just simply tap in that box and replace it with whatever you'd like it to say. If you have multiple email accounts, as you see that I do here, you can say that each signature, like my MobileMe account, my daughter's email account, my business account, my Gmail account, my personal account, another business account, you can have each one of those email accounts. If you have a Gmail account, it could have one signature, sent from my Gmail account, whereas your MobileMe account could say sent from my helicopter. So, this is where you can customize that or delete it. If you don't want anybody to know that you've been sending, that you have an iPad, you can just take that line off on this screen.
Can you put anything in there other than text?
You could put, if you have the Emoji keyboard available, you can put Emoji in there, but depending on the device people are reading them on, they may or may not see those little icons. It doesn't give you the option, if you'll notice if you hold for a second, it does not give you the option to insert a photo or video into a signature, as we were able to do a few moments ago in an email. But you can edit the signature through any of these screens.
I think it's 6.1.3, isn't it? You're limited at the one, and you don't want to do that.
You're right, 6.1.3, so I need to change my signature and put a 1 in the middle of that. So let's go back to mail, contacts, and calendar. Let's go to signature. So I changed that to 6.1.3. Now another neat thing on the iPad is,
Very good.
thank you. If you've ever typed something and say I typed in 6.1.3, but I didn't mean to. Now you can hit the delete button, but something that's a little more fun to do is shaking your iPad. And if you shake it, do you see how undo typing pops up? So that's kind of neat, and you can just then undo the last thing you did. So even if you started composing an email and you got 3 sentences typed and you shake it, you'll get the option to undo and then redo. So that's kind of neat and kind of fun. People, if you want to scare people or show them. Now another neat trick is, when you're if you don't want to shake it, if you go to the numerical menu, so you're going to type digits instead, you'll notice that the button above the microphone turns into an undo button there as well. So you can undo there. You can't redo, you can only undo. But with the shake, it will give the option to redo and undo.
But does it erase everything you've typed, or?
It's kind of like Command Z on your Mac. So it'll do the last string of commands, but if you're in Safari, and then you go to email and you start typing a message and you go back to Safari and do something, it won't, when you go back to email, you can't shake it to delete the email. It's kind of like Command Z on your Mac.
Right, so let's say you had your third paragraph and you shook it, it would only erase the third paragraph?
Let's try it. Let me go to select all. Let me copy that. I'm going to go back to mail. So we'll give that a shot. I'll go to here, I'll paste. I'll return, I'll paste here. Now if I shake it, it's only going to undo the last paste, the last paragraph.
Thank you.
Not three back. Now if I shake it again, I have the choice to either undo the previous. You can keep going back further steps, and then you can redo when you shake it again. So you have a little more control with the shake than you do. And you get a workout too. So
Oh, so I don't have to go jogging or anything?
you don't really. This is an aerobic workout, and you will break up a sweat if you start shaking your iPad a lot. Derek?
Is there a way to control the notifications that mail puts out?
As far as beats?
No, so that they don't.
The question is about notifications. If you go into settings, and you go into notifications, and then you click on the item that's affecting you, which I think that, let me find mail.
Where was notification?
Notifications is the fourth setting down on the settings page in the left column.
Okay.
So typically what you can do is take, well, let me click on photos, for example. I can't find mail. Oh, here's mail. So if you tap on mail, I think you would have to just turn everything off in each account. So if I go to my MobileMe account, I've got notification center turned off. So in that case, I have none for alert in the second section. I have the badge icon on, so it'll show me how many messages I have. But I have the sounds and the lock screen turned off. And I don't see anything about mail until I click on the icon. And you can even turn the badge app icon off on this page if you don't want to know how many emails you have. So that's probably the one you would want to leave on. But other than that, I don't see or hear anything about mail by leaving those off.
Now, can you turn shake off? I'm thinking, and please pardon me if I say that, but think of people with a serious case of Parkinson's. Yeah, honestly, they do and retype all the time. I mean, there must be a way to shake it off.
And I don't know. I don't know how you could. And you'll notice if I shake it on this screen, I don't get any options because I didn't do anything. You can't undo turning something off. You can only undo entry. So in that case, you may have to buy an iPad stabilizer case if the menu is coming up frequently. I'm not sure, and that would be something someone could invent as a Kickstarter campaign or something probably. But yeah, I don't think there's any way to turn the shake off because it's not even an option to turn it on like in multitasking. But yeah, that's a good point. If you were shaking, then it could interfere with your emailing anyway. Now another trick is that when you're in mail, for example, if you're in mail this way and you have your iPad in portrait view, you see a nice message list on the side, but you'll notice if you turn it up, by default it's going to show you just the email that you're in. If you want to see that message list, you simply swipe from the left across your screen and you'll be able to get back to that message list when you're in portrait view. So you can hide and show that just by swiping left or right on the left side of your screen when your email is in portrait view. So if you're in your inbox,
Is it just within one finger, two, three?
just one finger, just brush it to the left or the right. You should see the inbox appear, the message list.
Okay, yeah.
So, but when you turn it in landscape view, it's always there, so you can scroll through kind of easily. But when you're in portrait view, if you want to see it, you can just slide it over. Now, is everyone familiar with the copy and paste functions on the iPad? And you can do that on your computer? Does everyone know how to do that on the iPad? Copy and paste. Well, what I'll do is let me cover that, because copy and paste, if you've used it on your computer, if you have right-click enabled or a double tap on a trackpad, you can select text from a web page, for example, copy it and paste it into an email. The way to do that on your iPad is, we go to a page, and here's the lawnmower episode guide. So I want to send this paragraph in the center here to someone in an email for some reason. So if you hold for a second on the text, you'll get the little magnifying glass, which is selecting the text, and then you'll see these little dots to the right and left of the word that you selected. You can then click on a dot, and see I'm dragging it down to select the paragraph. Then I have the option to copy that, or if you want to hear it out loud, you can speak it from this point. So if you wanted to have it read to you, that's an option you have there.
How do you get the read again?
If you don't see a speak menu here when you select it, let's jump out for a second. Go to Settings on your iPad. Go to General Settings on the left, then go to Accessibility near the bottom of that list. In the top section here, you'll see a section that says Speak Selection. Turn that on if it's off, if you'd like to have your iPad speak things to you. So in Accessibility, under the Vision section, tap on Speak Selection. You can then turn that on, and you can also pick your dialect if you want, South African English or Spanish or French. And then you can also adjust the speaking rate. So you can adjust that. And what that does is when you're in an app where you can select text, whether it's a web page, whether it's an email, whether it's a book in iBooks, if you can select the text like this, you'll then have the option for your iPad to speak it to you. This works on the iPhone as well.
Is that only in iOS 6?
That's an iOS 6 feature, and it has to be, I think, an iPad.
2 has it.
2 does it?
Yeah.
So 2 and later, the iPad 1 won't do it.
So when I tap on it, I get the 2 blue.
You have to select it first,
Okay.
and you don't have. Did you enable the speech?
Yeah, I did. And why am I getting the fine instead of?
Well, that could be on a because it's a PDF embedded in a web page.
Right.
Some things might not be speakable. Yes.
You go to General, and then what do you select?
Go to General, and then go to Accessibility. It's down near the bottom. And then go to Speak Selection and turn that on.
Jeff,
Yes.
I have a very important suggestion.
Yes.
Whenever you turn on sound on your computer, make a note where you did it, because it will get on your nerves and you won't remember where to turn it off.
Good point.
Change your display resolution.
Right now, yeah, if you turn this on, you do where it says Speak Selection, you actually have to select something to get the speech menu to show up. So you almost couldn't do it accidentally. But one thing that might happen is if I go to iBooks, for example, and you can do this in iBooks, but however, if you've ever listened to an audiobook, these voices aren't as nice as the people that are paid to read them. So if you try to save money and you have a book on your computer, you try to have this read to you, you probably go crazy in a few minutes, because the people that are professional actors that read these things do a much better job than the little computer voice. But for a little snippet, you get it speak. So now we've got a lot of noise going on, but there's also a pause button there. So if you selected a whole paragraph and you say, oh, I'm done, you can hit pause. So you can toggle it on and off even after it's started
You probably have your-
within text on a page.
Can you have that speak in a different language?
You can, but if you don't know the language, it's confusing.
Well, I'm thinking if you're traveling and you're in a country that speaks a different language.
Well, it won't translate it. There's apps for that. But you couldn't say, I need to find a bathroom. It would pronounce it with a French accent, but that probably wouldn't help if the person didn't know English. So it changes the accents, but it doesn't change the language itself, unless you change all the language on your iPad. And then iPads can be multilingual, but if you accidentally change it to Spanish and you don't know Spanish, then it's hard to read the menus to get it back to English sometimes. So be careful about changing the language on your iPad because you want to hear French. Because if you don't know the French word for language selection on here, it's very difficult to get back out into English again. And that happened to me once, so be cautious. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, while we're talking about language, I don't know if they've changed it, but in the past, if I selected, say, Australian English for Siri, and then I search for, I'm sitting here and I say, find the nearest Starbucks, I always got a message saying it couldn't be done because you have to use U.S. English. You know, so I haven't checked it lately, but, you know, to me, if I went to Germany, I don't want to have to select German to find something because I don't know German.
Right.
Can I search in English if I'm in Australia?
I would think so because my understanding until you mentioned this was that Siri was based on like more GPS data than it was language data.
Anyway.
Like if you say find a shoe store nearby, it uses GPS to find that rather than I don't think if you change the country.
I'll try it again some other time.
Try that. I don't want to try it because I don't want to
Yeah.
mess it up. But you know that's something. Try that and let us know because
I will try it.
Make just one brief comment, Don. If you want to say something in a different language, there is one app called Dragon Dictation.
Right.
And that allows you very quickly to change languages. You can, within that application, go from French to English to South African English to British English and so forth. And while with all other apps or all other programs, you really have to go into settings and change the language of the way the device is set up, which is very cumbersome and time-consuming.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Dragon Dictation allows you to do that very quickly.
And like here's an app I have on my iPad that I'll test it, but like say here's Russian, and apparently testing 1 2 3.
It says testing in Russian.
Maybe so, but it doesn't speak that. See, because if I hit speak,
Say Parasho.
Хорошо. Maybe if I turned Russian language on, it would speak that. But do you see how it's not speaking Russian? Nothing happens because my iPad is set to English. So if you really wanted to translate, you could probably find an app, use Dragon, or I have an app on my iPhone called Google Translate. Google puts out a translation app that will actually speak it to you. I don't have it on my iPad, but that's something you could try too as well.
Yeah, 1,500 emails to catch up on.
Well, my phone says I have like 2,000, so this obviously doesn't have an account in it. And to tell you the truth, I haven't opened my mail on my computer. I have an iMac in my office and a MacBook here. I use so much email on my devices now, on my phone. I reply to everything that I need to reply to from my phone usually, because that's what I've got with me. I haven't opened email on my phone and on my iMac in months.
I just tried iTranslate, and I set it up for two languages, German and English. And I said in German, Guten Abend. And it's quickly said Guten Abend and then good evening in English. So iTranslate seems to be working fine.
So there's an app for that.
Yeah.
And that's what I have on my iPad. Maybe it didn't work because it's an iPad running an iPhone version.
My iPhone.
Do you have to have it, do you have to be online to do that?
Probably have to be online, yes. I don't think my iPhone is smart enough. They have to go to servers.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
But how about for the Dragon? With the Dragon one, does that also mean you can have a Wi-Fi or a?
Now with Dragon you have to, but I think iTranslate is wonderful, I just tested it. So if you go to anywhere and you say something in your own language, it will translate it into that other language and pronounce it correctly.
So
Well, I'm in Europe and following your suggestion, I've turned off my
Well, just take me along. So.
cellular.
So I'm back to the web page where we started with copying and pasting. So I'll continue there. So before we got to the speak button, I selected the text using the small handles there. So I select the text I want to copy because I want to, for some reason, pass this information on to someone. So you'll see if after you select it, there's a copy button. So if I go to copy, that text is now on the clipboard. So when I go to mail and I start a new message, and if you tap and hold for a second to see the magnifying glass, you'll see a paste option. And then there's the text that I just copied from the web page. So it's just like if you've copied and pasted on your computer, you might copy your mailing address and paste it onto an envelope or some such event. Then that's how you do it on the iPad. So you press and hold for a moment to select. Now another thing you can do on the iPad, so here's the synopsis of this Law and Order episode. If I hold to get the magnifying glass and select it, then you can select a certain amount of text. Now with iOS 6 you'll have a formatting menu. So you see the little BIU at the top. If I click that, I then have the option to make it bold, make it italicized, or underline, or all three, or just an underline, or just italicized. So by copying or selecting text, you'll also get a formatting menu if you wanted to put emphasis on something that you were composing on your iPad.
If you put 2 fingers down, it'll select the paragraph.
Right, yeah, so if you tap twice, it'll select the whole.
You know, just 2 fingers.
Let me try. So yeah, that's a good tip. I didn't realize.
Wait a minute, what was that again?
If you tap 2 fingers, it will select the paragraph.
That does not seem to work on the iPad too.
Yeah, I have iPads working.
You're copying from an email?
No, she's just selecting.
Can you cut in a graph? What I find is that if I hit something, I get the text, it may be a graph, which is equally as important, right in the center of the text, but I only get the text.
Oh, yeah, depending on the source. Like, for example, here's a photo. Let me see if I can copy that. Let's see, sometimes you don't get the option to copy that. If I tap on the picture, I get the option to open it or save it. So depending on the source, some images, you might have something that says copy there. But this page, maybe because it's an NBC website, they don't want you to copy their material or something. But depending on the source, you may be able to copy images and paste them, but it always depends on the source. So if I copy this, which has images in it, and I go to email, and I paste, let's see if the images go in. So it depends. These images kind of came in, but they're in a weird format. So it really depends on the source, whether they've enabled, the images could be protected or something. Google searches for images will show, you get results where you can't save some images, they won't let you right click because they're protected.
What I've been doing, which is cumbersome, is if you hit the button here on the bottom and the top, you get a screenshot, and you can cut in a screenshot, but that's very cumbersome.
Right, and that might be the only way to do it with some images. You know, because if you do take a screenshot, you can crop it, you can...
Were you able to duplicate what Marilyn was saying with the paragraph?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I tap this with 2 fingers, it's selecting the paragraph. So you just press once with 2 fingers and it should select the whole paragraph.
Your fingers have to be at the right angle, trust me. That's true.
I'm not getting it.
That's after you have brought up the magnifying glass?
No, you don't even have to bring up the magnifying glass. So if you tap with 2 fingers, Well, it should select the paragraph of the,
It must be a special two fingers.
Yeah.
Not
Doesn't it?
letting you copy
use
it.
the two fingers you would do a peace sign with, and it's working for me.
Not for me either.
Maryland says it has to be in a certain angle.
You have to have a tip of it, it has to be in the soft part of your finger.
Well, like on this page, for example, it's not working. So but this page might not allow copies.
If you tap once, if you tap twice with one finger, it should give you should get a word. If you tap once with two fingers, it should give you a paragraph.
The word works.
I'm just having twice with two fingers.
Once with two fingers.
What happens if you don't have fingers?
You probably wouldn't have an iPad. So yeah, that may or may not work depending on the content, the page you're on, and the if it's available. And once again, remember, anything you can select, if you have that feature turned on, you can have your iPad speak to
Once
you,
with two fingers.
and then you can have it, you can pause that.
Do I have to get a manicure first?
You may, yeah.
Well, your fingers aren't the same length, that's why it's hard to tap with two
Well, do you
fingers.
ever have two fingers the same
I
way?
got the
That's a
same.
good though.
Doesn't look like it.
Not me.
Yours will do it.
So now here's another trick you can do. You can forward selected text in an email. So I've got an email here from Peach Pit Press, and I want to pass on disable iCloud to the group here. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to select the text that I want to send on. So this is. Let me try the two finger. So the two fingers isn't working here. So I'm going to select the text again. So I want to forward just this information under this column. So I want to forward that information, for example. If I highlight it, select it, so it's selected, it's blue there, you can see, and I click the arrow to share or forward, what will happen is it's only forwarding the text that I had selected before I hit the forward button. So see, it starts with in the system preferences window because I didn't select it all. Now, when you do this and you forward selected text, it does not strip out the headers, like from. So if you have an email that was sent by your cousin to 500 people and there's a little two-line joke at the end, a knock-knock joke, and then you select just the joke and you hit the forward button, all those other people's addresses are still going to show up. So it forwards the text, but it also shows the header information. So be cautious about that. And then you can just manually select that and remove that manually by selecting and cutting it.
So there's no shortcut to getting rid of all that.
Not yet. That might be in an update in the future where you can copy really selected text. You could copy and paste that into a new email, but it wouldn't be the same as forwarding. So there's 2 or 3 ways to attack it depending on your goal. But just if you remember that you can always select text by clicking and then dragging the small dots, the handles there, and that will give you options to copy and paste. And you'll notice that when I'm in the menu here, I don't have all the formatting options that I had before because I'm not composing. I'm in an existing email that I'm copying from. So only when you're in the message body of an email or a note that you are composing, that you created, when you see those options for like bold, underline, italicize, because you can't change the formatting of an existing message.
On your other example, though, you can delete the header information, but you can't select it all. But if you click at the end, you can use the back button and delete your forwarded message.
Right, so here's a forwarded message, and it's got all.
Yeah, you can delete all of that, but it's, you
Right, and another thing, if you select it, if you select a word, you can sometimes kind of just drag over the part that you want to delete, like so. So I'm selecting all this and then hit cut. And then it will sometimes take care of that, but it's a little tedious.
Oh,
But at least you don't have to keep hitting the delete button over and over.
Well, you just hold it, and then it goes faster and faster if you keep holding it.
Now another thing you can do is you can select all. You know how sometimes when you forward an email, you'll get these little quote marks over to the left? And sometimes if it's been forwarded a dozen times, there'll be like 6 or 7 little lines of quote marks. So if you click and hold for a second to select, and you select all, you can then click on the quote level at the far right, and you can say decrease, and watch the blue line over at the left disappears. So if you do have a message that you're forwarding in something, and there are a bunch of those lines which signify the amount of times it's been forwarded, basically, you can go to the quote level and you can increase it or decrease it, depending on if you want to hide those lines.
Can you ever get rid of them all?
If you keep doing it, eventually it'll let you go all, but you have to hit it each time to remove a level.
All right, well, how come you can't do that on the Mac?
Sure you can.
I think you can.
Now,
There's a keyboard shortcut.
some quotes, you can't get rid of other by copying out and pasting it into a.
Right, and sometimes, I know in Mail on the Mac, sometimes even when you copy the text, the quote goes with it. And it depends probably on the original mail provider. There's a lot of things that you don't know in a situation like that, of even what computer it was created on, I think, could affect that. It's kind of embedded into the email. So on the computer, it might not be as easy to manage. And I haven't run into a place on here yet that would not let me remove the quotes. So if I select all, go to quote level, decrease. So in this case, it's letting me, but I haven't run into one on the portable devices that I couldn't remove the quote level. Okay, let's say you're typing a word, and I'm going to type in the word help here. Let's say I didn't mean to type the word help. I select it and I hit suggest. It'll show me words that it thought I might have wanted to type, even though it's not misspelled. So when you misspell a word, it will typically underline it and say, oh, this is misspelled. It might offer you an auto correction. However, if you want to find like a little quick help menu, you know, it'll suggest that I might have meant to say heal, hell, or held instead of help. If that feature is handy. I mean, I've used it more to demonstrate than I've actually used it. But if you select it, then you'll see so we select. If you see a suggest menu, it's able to give you words that it thinks you might want to use.
How do you get a suggestion?
You have to select a word first.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hit replace on here for a second.
Same.
So
Okay, yeah.
that might be the iOS. You have a 6.1.3?
Yeah. But I have a 2.
It could be, you might see the word replace instead of suggest.
Okay.
If you have an older iPad, there might be a hardware issue, not the hardware related menu then.
Yeah, because it's the same thing, it is giving suggestions.
Right, it'll give you suggestions, but it might be called replace.
I find this very useful when I type 2 words and it didn't take the space in between. I click on it and it will suggest the separation, which is much easier than positioning the bar in between. It's very good.
So yeah, so like in that case though, I have put the word help me and it gave me a little underline saying it thinks it's misspelled. And then if you tap on that, it will prompt you that it thinks you meant to say this. So it'll work with the misspelling pretty automatically, but you can do it manually.
But there it is, up there.
But, right, so it'll do that and it will notify you by underlining it typically if it thinks it's a misspelling.
It gave me a different word.
Yeah, it might do something altogether. Right, so it may not be useful, but it may be one of those tools. Now another thing you can do, anywhere you see text, when you select it again, you'll also have a define button. So if you want to define the word help, it'll bring up a little dictionary. So you select a word. This won't work with phrases, but it'll work with words. So if you select my country 'tis of thee, it won't be able to define that. But here, there's the definition of help, some thesaurus suggestions. So that's kind of handy, that it's a built-in dictionary. Anywhere you can select text, whether you're reading a page on Wikipedia, whether you're in a book, whether it's a Kindle, whether it's an iBook, you can select a specific word and say, define this for me. And the iPad will have a built-in dictionary that works for iBooks. If you do try this feature like on the Kindle, and it could be the same way on the Nook, I'm not sure. For some reason, the Kindle wants to download the New American Heritage Dictionary that Amazon puts out for free. So you have two dictionaries on your iPad at that point. You have your iPad built-in dictionary from Apple, and then Amazon, if you use the Kindle app and try to define a word, it won't use Apple's dictionary, it uses its own. So they're kind of behind the scenes, but that's where that's the source it goes to for defining words. The Kindle has its own dictionary. So another handy feature is there's a, and I don't think I have mine, but there's a kit. If you travel a lot, there's a little device you can get called the iPad camera connection kit. Has anyone seen that? Yeah, but basically what it does is it's a device that you can attach to the 30-pin connector to your iPad. And they now have one for Lightning iPads as well. But it will let you take the SD card from a camera and plug it into your iPad, and then your iPad will open photos and it will prompt you, you want to import these photos?
Before you leave email, I would like
Oh,
to
yes.
make a suggestion. If you bring up the keyboard, very often you need an apostrophe. And you have to go to the other keyboard to get it. Well, you don't. First of all, if you hold your finger on it, which is Jeff is doing now, it will get that. But you don't even have to do that. You swipe up from the comma, and it gives you an apostrophe, and you swipe up from the dot, and it gives you a quotation mark.
So it's much like the extra symbols you see. If you hold down a key on the iPad keyboard, you'll see these, international symbols, but that's a neat, so that's a good tip, thank you, because you can just swipe up.
Much faster.
But on some words, you'll get it, like if you type WHATS, you would get, it would suggest.
Autocorrect.
It would suggest the apostrophe, but otherwise, that's an excellent suggestion. Thank you, Bob.
Now another trick too, if we, let me go to Safari. Well, Safari has a button, but if you're ever filling out a form, say you're going to Amazon or something, and you're filling in your email, when you get to those forms where you have an email address that you're entering, and I don't even think I can bring one up, but if you, on the keyboard, the way it works is, if I type in Amazon, and then I wanted to put a .com in there, if it's a form that can accept a web address, if you hold down the period or the question mark, you'll see a whole menu that pops up that says .net, .edu, .com, .org. So when you're filling out those web forms, like for your email or something, and you click on the period or the dot and hold it, you'll be able to slide up to get to a menu of most of the common domain names, .com, .net, .org, and such. So I'm having trouble finding that. I don't have a form up to do that, but that's another shortcut you can do by holding down that dot key on a keyboard where there's a form entry required.
Go up to the to field in the email.
Oh, maybe so, yeah.
Yep. And then hold down the period.
There we are.
Yeah.
So that's the menu that comes up, .net, .org, .com, .us, and .edu.
So you hold down the period?
You hold down the period, and then you slide your finger up to put in the appropriate domain name. Now, does everyone see how I have at the top of my iPad screen? Does everyone see a percentage there? Does some of you just see an icon for the battery? So this is a handy tip for both iPhones and iPads. If you go into settings on your iPad, and you go into the general section, and you go into the usage, which is the third item down, you'll have a section near the bottom that says battery percentage on or off. That's where you can toggle that if you'd like to see that you're at 32% instead of just a third of the battery being gone. So if that's off, you can turn it on, and this works for your iPhone as well, so you can see a more of an accurate indicator of where the level is. And does everyone know how to create folders on your iOS devices? So I have a photography here in the center of the screen, and inside that I have 6 or 7 different photography apps. And now you can also create shortcuts to web pages. So like here's a shortcut to a web page that I saved. But the way to create a shortcut to a web page button is if you tap on, if you're on the web page and you tap on the arrow, the sharing arrow at the top, one of the options you'll have is add to home screen. And what that will do is it will put a button on your home page along with your app icon buttons to take you back to a certain web page. So if your bank, for example, if it's not Bank of America, which has a designated app, it could be a bank, maybe a small bank or some kind of fund that didn't have a website or an app yet. But you could put a shortcut to that page on your iPad screen using that add to home screen button for a page that you might access that wasn't the bank's normal app or something. So if there is a page you want to get back to, whether it's a newspaper that doesn't have a designated app, then you could specify it as a place on your home screen there.
And then you can put them in a folder?
And then you can treat those just as you would other icons on your app screen and create folders for financial sites, humor sites, sites of social networking sites. So you could, if you didn't want to use an app for Facebook, for example, you could bookmark the Facebook app this way and then access it through the folder.
Jeff, speaking of the home page, are you going to go over the claw commands? You posted that nice thing. So I think Jerry, a long time ago, posted a thing which is a good suggestion. The most used thing on your iPad is going to be the home button. And that's the thing that might, if you use it too much, maybe it wears out. So I think somebody posted a thing saying that, like when you turn it on, you can turn it on with the button on the top or the side, the little button. So I've switched to doing that. The same thing you use to turn to standby.
To wake it up.
Instead of using the home button. And but you posted a thing about the claw, and I can see how the claw motion gets me back to the page that I was on. If I'm in an app, and then you do the claw, but it does not go to the very first home page. It goes only to the page that I was on. And so maybe I'm misinterpreting the definition of home page.
And that's a multitasking feature that you can turn on. And I think what Don's talking about is that if you're in an app, like in Credit Booth or something, and you're in the app, instead of clicking on your home button to get back to the main screen, like you're probably used to doing on all your devices, I'll show you the setting. You can enable multitasking gestures, which means I can just take fingers and pinch that down. So if you have your multitasking gestures turned on, and another thing multitasking gestures will do, if you tap your home button twice, you'll see the multitasking tray and you can scroll through your apps that are open. Well, using multitasking gestures, if I'm in cards here and I swipe to the left, I can get to my camera. I swipe there, I can get to mail. I swipe there. So it's kind of like if you've used spaces on your Mac, how you can swipe to different spaces on the screen. You can actually swipe through the different apps that are open on your iPad by using gestures. That's a 4-finger slide, I think, yeah. That's the last one. Oh, it's loading the page.
But the best one is the 5-finger swipe up, which brings up the, whatever you call it, the icons on
The multitasking.
That saves 2 clicks on the home button.
So 5, yeah, if you use 5 fingers, you can slide that up and down actually. Now the way to turn this on, to double check that you have it turned on, is go to Settings on your iPad, go to General, and down about halfway down you'll see Multitasking Gestures. Make sure that's on. And what that'll let you do is use your fingers a lot more than you have to use the home button for certain tasks. And there's a little list of things. Use 4 or 5 fingers to pinch the home screen, swipe up to reveal multitasking bar, swipe left or right between apps. So if you turn that on, then you can use your fingers to just slide left and right between your open apps rather than having to go to the home button a lot. And there is a way, if you notice that your home button is not, like sometimes, especially on the iPhones, there have been problems where people, like your home button doesn't work like it used to. There's a way you can, if you go into one of the Apple apps, and I'll post this, I think it might have been posted before, about if you go into one of the native Apple apps, like the weather or stocks, and you do a certain gesture, you can actually, it'll reset the software that controls the home button on an iPhone anyway. So I'll find that information and post it to the group because I've tried it when a couple people called me and said they had an issue with their button and it worked. But it's a little trick that somehow is software related that will reset the home button on an iPhone anyway.
There's no way to turn off everything at once.
In
Only
what way?
open apps.
Not yet. I mean, even if you, so if you want to, one way to save, and there's 2 schools of thought on this. I mean, my opinion is if you have the weather app open in the background, it's going to be checking the weather for updates and hurricane warnings, every so often. There's some people that say when the weather is not showing at the bottom that it's not operating at all. But I've heard it both ways, and I'm more on the caution side of things, where I close out my apps at the bottom several times a day, because I think overall it could affect the performance and battery life the more you have open there that's communicating.
So is there a way, other than clicking the home button, to get to your number 1 home page if you're on, say, number 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7?
Only pressing the home button once should take you there immediately.
That's it.
That's the only way I know, rather than swiping. But one of the questions George had was, is there a way to kill all those apps that are at the bottom at once? And right now, I think that's something they can do software-wise. But there's nothing now that will let you, click one button, 6 apps will shut down. Because even if you shut down your iPad and turn it back on, they're still open. So it's a limitation of the operating system, I think.
Even a hard, if you hold both of those buttons down, will that do it?
They're still running.
They're still there, yeah. It remembers the last saved state. So unlike your Mac, when you can uncheck a box or turn it off in settings to reopen apps next time you turn on your computer, the iPad, there's no such thing yet. But that's probably something that would be a feature that might be introduced, I would think. Any other questions? Or I was going to tell you about a couple of my favorite apps, because most of the times when I hear about things, it's through word of mouth. One that I really like is on the bottom of my screen there, called Zite, Z-I-T-E. So if you're not familiar with that, what it does is it lets you create and there are several apps like this. I happen to like Zite, but it'll let you create an app that will show you news stories that you might have interest in. So what happens is you'll have a list here at the top right called a quick list. And I've got stories for Mac OS X, Apple News, gadgets, iOS apps, technology, and Steve Jobs. So what this will do is Zite, on each of the pages, it's going to show me news that's related to Apple, iPhone apps. And at the bottom here it says, this was 50 minutes ago, this was 2 hours ago, this was 40 minutes ago, that was 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, 58 minutes ago. So it's a news aggregator that will, whether you're into gardening, whether you're into NASCAR, whether you're into, whatever your hobby is, Zite will kind of tie it in together. Find all these sources that are current and related to what your interest may be and kind of aggregate them. And I think there are several apps that do this. I've really been using Zite more than any of the others that I've tried. But it's kind of neat because it tells you the time. And then if you click on a story, then you can get directly to that web page. It'll give you the option to email it or share it to Twitter, email, Instapaper, Google Plus. So it's a very versatile app. It's ZITE. Zite. Now, has anyone used Apple's Cards app for the iPad or for the iPhone? That's a really, it's called Cards. And it's a really handy little app. It's free. It's down here in my dock. It's the third item. So what happens there is, if you go to the Hallmark store or Kmart or wherever you go to buy a greeting card, you know, they're $4 or $5, $6 probably. You got to mail them and everything. Well, what Apple does is, they've got this Cards app where you go in, you pick a picture. You can take a picture from your camera roll. You can resize it. You can go to the inside of the card, and you can customize the text to say what you'd like. And then you hit done, and then when you go to the envelope, you actually tap on the name. You can find the recipient that's listed in your contact list. You know, so if I type in, someone's name, it will then put in the address on a nice envelope, and then when you buy the card, it's $2.99, and then Apple mails it, and it's delivered in a few days to your recipient. And I have a sample here of one that I did, if you'd like to see it. They're really impressive.
Yeah.
And for $3 delivered, you can't beat it. So it comes with a nice envelope, a nice card that you can customize, and for $3 they deliver it to your recipient. So it means it's a great deal, and you get to make the card yourself. So as long as the picture is on your phone or your iPad, and then you can easily import it.
That's fantastic. I have some people whose address I have, but I don't have an email for them.
Yeah, and this is a physical card.
Yeah,
So
this would work.
the $3 includes the
That's
shipping.
great.
And they just bill it to your iTunes account. So whatever credit card you have on file, that's where the $2.99 charge is to. But it's kind of priceless for the customization. It looks really nice. You see this one that's passing around. They do a really nice job. Pardon me?
Do the mail outside of the U.S.?
I don't think they might for $2.99. So, but if you had an address in there, the price may change. I don't know because I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
But if you have an address that's in another country, maybe the price will say, $4.50. I'm not sure, but you could try that. So, and another nice thing is Apple will send you an email, and I don't know how they do this, but you'll get an email that says, "Oh, your card to David is scheduled to be delivered today."
Yeah.
So you kind of get a little tracking on it. I don't know how they do that because there's nothing on the envelope that shows that, but they must know based on production and times that you'll get a notification when it's out for delivery, which is nice.
So that's Cards, C-A-R-D-S.
Cards.
Works on the iPad?
It works on the iPad and the iPhone. So I think it's the dual app to where it'll appear in native resolution on whichever device you install it on. But the first screen you can pick from different themes of cards. You got birthday, you got travel cards, you've got new baby cards, Valentine's cards, get well cards. So you can really pick, and some of them have pictures available. And when you get started, so you just tap on the card to select it. When you tap on the picture, it will then take you to choose an existing photo. You can go to your camera roll, and pick a picture. Well, there's another girl in the crowd there, so there she is, and I hit apply. And then it saves that photo, and you can customize the text. So for $3, it's really, I'm surprised they keep doing it really, because that's a great price. And it's a custom card rather than something off the rack. Another fun app that I've been having fun with my daughter is this one called Incredibooth. And what that does is, when you open it, it brings up, remember the old photo booths you would sit in and take your pictures for at a time? So with that,
What's this called?
Incredibooth. So, like Incredible, but with booth at the end. And what that will do is when you tap the picture, or tap the shutter, let's see, it takes 4 pictures in a row, and then it puts them into like a little film strip. That you can then save to your camera roll and print, just like one of those pictures. So it's really fun when you're doing it with people, obviously. more so. And then you can save that, and then you can get them printed at Walgreens or Costco or something in a little strip. Like, you'll have to cut, they'll usually do it like a 5x7, and this will be in the middle, but if you cut it, it will, it looks like the old film strips.
And they have that for the iPhone too?
Yeah, that's an iPhone app that's optimized for the iPad. So that's incredible. And then another one I've really started playing with more recently is the Ancestry app. If anybody uses Ancestry.com to research genealogy, you have an Ancestry.com account if you subscribe that will then, you can download the Ancestry app for the iPhone and the iPad for free, and that will automatically sync with your accounts that you have with Ancestry. So you can actually look for data. Anything you find while you're on your iPad, if you find a birth certificate or something, that'll sync with your Ancestry.com account. So it's kind of a nice other way you can have access to that even when you're not at your computer. If you're into researching your family tree and such, it's kind of portable. And that works on the iPhone and the iPad. And they did a really good job with it as far as integrating. And it'll keep track of all your family trees and such. Any other questions or comments? Everyone familiar with Siri? What I've noticed about Siri is it's getting more accurate over time when you do ask questions about, say you're looking for a pizza place or a coffee place. It's really starting to get more crowdsourced in that other people, when they look for a coffee shop, for example, and then they review it on Yelp or something, or on Facebook even, they're taking those results that everybody else that has looked for a coffee shop has found, and then they're putting them at the top of the list when you search for it. So they really are doing a good job of kind of aggregating popular rating sites like Yelp and Foursquare and such that do ratings to return accurate results when you do ask Siri for a certain service or good that's nearby. So that, I think that with the integration with the passbook and the movie tickets and such, Siri is going to become much more useful for a lot of things in the future.
Jeff, I never tried Siri. How do I get it?
Well, it's built into your...
But how do I get to it?
To open Siri, you simply press on your home button on your iPad or your iOS device for about 2 seconds. Siri will pop up, and immediately when that little window pops up, let me start over. So as soon as that little window pops up, you have to ask it the question you want to do. So for example, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
42? That can't be right.
So 42 for some reason, but typically, if you said, what is 5 times 12 plus 64?
This might answer your question.
124. So, you can ask Siri all kinds of things.
It has to be iPad 3 or higher.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think an iPad 3,
I have two.
Yeah, it won't work on 2.
and it has to be an iPhone 4S or later. Like an iPhone 3 doesn't have Siri.
Yeah, I have 4.
Yeah.
So if you have the 4S, that was this addition of Siri. So
Oh, 4S.
an interesting thing you can ask is, I need to hide a body.
What kind of place are you looking for? Services, mortuaries, cremation services, metal foundries, reservoirs, mines, dumps, or swamps.
So she has a sense of humor as well. Sometimes when you ask it the groundhog question, she'll say, don't you have anything better to do? And sometimes she'll say, it depends if you're talking about an African or a European woodchuck. And then I've seen her say, oh, well, typically, since a woodchuck is not a woodchuck, but it's a groundhog, the correct answer is how many something with a groundhog mound and a groundhog hound. I don't know, but it's pretty witty, and you never really get the same response twice if you ask it something that's kind of ambiguous. If you say, where's the closest pizza place, it will then, through your GPS coordinates, return results with the highest rated on these popular sites at the top of the list.
For the meeting,
Just show them the Kmart ad.
Oh yeah, has everyone seen the new Kmart ad? Let me find this. Oh, don't tell me I don't have a YouTube app on here.
Probably gonna-
No, when it answered 42, I was wondering if it was advertising the movie that just came out. Right.
Apparently there is a lot of, there's some scientific, or it's an inside joke apparently, the number 42 with the coding people, and I don't know what it means, but apparently when you ask Siri a lot of things, she'll say 42, 42, 42 over and over, and it's something with computer programming that I'm not even inside to. But what George was asking was, this is the new Kmart ad that's been making the news, so let me turn this up so you can hear.
Ship my pants. Right here. Ship my pants, you kidding? You can ship your pants? Right here. You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just may ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Billy, you can ship your pants. If you can't find what you're looking for in store, we'll find it at Kmart.com right now and ship it to you for free.
So where's the original?
Let's find it. Yeah, here we are. 36 seconds.
Ship my pants.
But yeah, they're shipping pants now. So
Ship my pants. Right here. Ship my pants, you kidding? You can ship your pants? Right here. You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just may ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Billy, you can ship your pants too.
I can't wait to ship my pants, Dad.
I just shipped my pants. It's very convenient. Very.
I just ship my drawers.
I just shipped my nightie. I just shipped a bed. If you can't find what you're looking for in store, we'll find it at Kmart.com right now and ship it to you for free.
that's how Kmart's announcing their free shipping, which is getting a lot of publicity, as you can imagine. Any other questions or comments? Siri tips or tricks that anyone's run across? Now, a lot of times you can tell Siri to tell you a joke, and she will tell me a joke.
Jeff, get serious.
So I haven't seen that one. Sometimes she'll say, "Oh, I can't. I always forget the punchline." But you'll often see. Now, another trick with Siri is, let's say you really didn't want to say, "Tell me a joke." You can edit Siri by, if you tap on your original question that appears, you can change the whole question to Siri by just typing it in. And then she'll actually search for that information.
To search the web for honey, you'll need to unlock your iPad first. Searching the web for honey, the recipe for lasagna.
So then she'll return with recipes for lasagna because I typed it in. So if you're talking to Siri and you're not driving and you say something and she can't understand you because it's a weird last name or something, and she keeps putting in a different word, then just tap on the question that appears in the little window and manually type in the word you're wanting to type. So that's a nice little override feature
And
for
then have
Siri.
accent at the same time.
Yeah, just don't do it while you're driving. So, well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.